Good morning, friends. We are back in the kitchen finishing up some projects and starting some new projects that we started yesterday. We finished and made tomatillo jalapeno hot sauce, 100% from the garden. We canned up some peaches. We made peach pie filling and pie crust. And we are going to make some ham pies today. We're going to cook some up because my friend's coming over this afternoon, and so I want to have a nice treat while her and her kids come over. And then I'm going to freeze a bunch of them so we can enjoy fresh peach ham pies throughout the winter. So what I'm going to do first though is I have a roast here. After picking up half a beef last week, I put a roast in the refrigerator to thaw, and I thought because I have all that cabbage in the fridge from the garden, I thought I would make some beef sliders, and we're gonna make a coleslaw. I've never made like a southern style coleslaw before, so we're gonna attempt to do that together. This is a beautiful roast. I can't find my crock pot. I would cook this roast in the crock pot. That is one of my favorite things to cook in a crock pot. I don't use a crock pot that often, but I find a crock pot cooks a roast beautifully. But I can't find my crock pot. So we're gonna braise it in the oven, which will work just fine, no problems. I wanna get my oil heated up. I just put a little bit of olive oil in there, and I'm going to preheat. I thought I already did it. I'm gonna preheat my oven to 300 degrees because it's early in the morning. We're gonna have this braise all day long in the oven. All I'm gonna put on this roast is some garlic salt. I find if I put pepper on roast when I sear them, it burns. So I'll pepper it a little bit later. I'm just gonna pat this in there. This is a big piece of meat, so I'm seasoning it pretty liberally so that it will be well seasoned. And then we're gonna make some rolls. I should pat this dry with a paper towel, but I don't have any paper towels right now, and so I'm not gonna do that. Best practice is to pat your meat dry before you sear it. But sometimes you just don't have the time to do best practice. So we're gonna make some 1 hour buttery rolls. They're so good, and we're gonna use those as the slider buns, and then we'll put the coleslaw on top of that. I just found my crock pot, but I'm gonna go ahead and use this because I already got it dirty. We're going to put our roast in here. We're gonna sear this really, really well, probably about 2 minutes on each side. While this is searing, I'm gonna prep a couple onions from the garden, and we're gonna braise, well, this one's not from the garden. I think I'm gonna use this one up because it needs to be used up. And we're gonna braise this with our beef. These onions are gonna be for flavoring, not really for eating. So I'm gonna leave them relatively large. I am not really following a recipe here. I am just making this up with what I have on hand. You see that color? That is what we want. That's beautiful. So now I have a whole head of garlic. I'm gonna peel this entire head of garlic, and we're gonna put this whole head of garlic in the roast. I've taken the time to sear all the sides of the meat. So now we're gonna deglaze our pan. I'm just using water. It's gonna be a very, very, very simple braise because I want the meat to have the flavor in it. And then I also want the rolls and the slaw to kind of have a lot of the flavor too. So we're not gonna muddy up the flavors too much with this. We're gonna make it very, very simple, but delicious. So in here to our water, our beef, we're gonna add our onion. Our garlic. A couple bay leaves. And this is where I'm gonna add a lot of pepper. And a couple splashes of Worcestershire. The last thing to do is to put the lid on it and put it in the oven. Ooh, those are hot. I have to get used to a gas stove. Electric stoves don't get the pots as hot on the handles. So we're gonna put this in the oven. That's not gonna fit. All day long. We'll check on it to make sure that it has enough moisture. We may need to add a little bit more liquid. We may need to turn the oven down, but I'm not gonna touch this for many, many hours. Now let's get going on the rolls. We're gonna make my 1 hour buttery dinner rolls, and these are so good. So first we need to start with a half a cup of water and 1 cup of milk. And we are going to warm this up in the microwave just a bit, just so it's about 110-ish degrees. And we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter to that that's melted as well. I microwaved my milk a little too long, so I need it to cool down a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and refill my flour container, my oat container, my whole wheat flour container, and maybe my sugar container, because we need to make some baked oatmeal today. During the move, I never fill these up, and I definitely need them full. I have not finished completely organizing this pantry space. Once I do, I will show you what it all looks like. But I have decided to put a couple of these 5-gallon buckets in here with the things that I use the most of, so I can just refill in here and I don't have to go all the way down to the basement. With the items that I go through the most of, like flour, oats, and sugar, I like to have 2 of these 5-gallon buckets so that I can rotate my stock easily. I keep 1 up here, or 1 in the kitchen, that's what I did at my last house, and 1 in the bulk pantry. So when this one runs out, I'll grab the other one and I'll refill this one. So I constantly have a rotation, and I'm making sure that I keep my goods nice and fresh. Okay, so we got our flour. And now in this bucket, I have my rolled oats. Because this has not been full, I have not been making Josh baked oatmeal at all. And that's actually okay, because I bought way too much granola. Last time I bought granola through Azure, and we've been going through that. And it's been good because I like, well, if you're wondering where I buy my bulk goods, it's through Azure Standard. I can link them down below. But I like my homemade granola better than their granola. Their granola is really, really good, but I just like mine better. So I'm trying to use that up so that I can start making my own granola again. I don't have sugar up here. I need to get a bucket of sugar up here. What I like to keep in the pantry is whole wheat flour, white flour, oats, and sugar, because those are the things that I go through the absolute most of. We got these filled up. Really excited about it, super successful. Let's go finish making those rolls. We actually need this flour to finish these hand pies we're gonna finish today as well. So I'm glad I just took the time. Ignore the mess on the table over there if you see it. Josh is in the middle of a big project and he's got all his stuff there, so I'm just letting it be. He said that this weekend he was gonna try to organize it, so that's exciting. But it's okay, let's go ahead. Yes, this milk now is perfect temperature. And finish these rolls. So we have our milk and water. We're gonna add our butter. Oh my goodness, that smells so good already. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of honey. And honestly, I don't measure this. We might end up getting a little bit more, but that's okay. 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. That's what makes these 1 hour. Probably should have put that yeast in there before I put the butter. Oh well. Now we're gonna add 3.5 to 4 cups of all-purpose flour. I keep forgetting salt recently, and I'm not sure why. I have made bread before and forgotten salt, and it tastes like nothing. I I did clean my counters really well before I decided to knead my bread dough on my counter. We're just gonna knead it for a couple minutes until it gets nice and smooth. This is one of the easiest dough recipes. I love this recipe so much. And just like that, we have our dough together. It's really soft and supple. It's beautiful dough. We're gonna get it back in our bowl. But first I'm gonna spray the bowl with a little bit of avocado spray. And we're gonna spray the top of our dough just so it doesn't dry out. And we're gonna set it in a warm spot to rise for about an hour. Yesterday, we made this peach pie filling together. This is just peaches, sugar, cinnamon, salt, and a little bit of flour to thicken it. And we want to work with it cold, so I let it refrigerate overnight. We also made pie crust. I'm going to start with one of these. One's going to go in the refrigerator while we roll one out. I have a little bit of flour, rolling pin, and just a cookie sheet with some parchment paper. I have 2 of them. Half of these, or more than half, are going to go into the freezer for a really yummy winter treat that's gonna taste like summer. I'm gonna put this piece of pastry back in the fridge so it can stay cold while we roll out the first one. Never really done anything like this before, so this is gonna be fun. I kind of am making it up as we go along. No pressure, right? This is a lot of peach pie filling. These are the peaches we picked together, and this is a lot of pie dough. This is my pie crust recipe that I usually make. I shaped this into a rectangle because I want to make these hand pies like Pop-Tart shape, kind of. That's kind of what my goal is. I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees. Oh no, I don't. Let me get that preheated. I find when I work with pie pastry, it's best to keep it moving so you're not having it stick. We have our pastry totally rolled out. I floured the bottom of it, and I'm gonna cut this into rectangles. Not really sure what I'm doing. Okay, so we're gonna get 8 pies from this. I think this piece is a little bit large, but that's okay. I'm gonna try to make these on the cookie sheet so I don't have to move them once I have them filled. I have a little bit of water, our pastry, and our filling. I may have filled that too much. I don't know. Yeah, I think I did. Oh, I wanted to put, shoot, I was gonna put a little bit of water on this to seal it, but I forgot, so I don't want to open it up again. Need flour on my fork. I mean, it's probably not the prettiest hand pie in the world, but it's beautiful to me. I'm excited about it. I think I made way too much pie filling. That's okay. I'll figure out something to do with it. I've never eaten a peach pie before. So let's take some water this time. I'm using the water kind of like when you make egg rolls. Yeah, egg rolls. I like this shape a lot better. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that again with this piece. Don't want to forget that water step. That makes a big difference in getting these 2 pieces of pastry to stick together. We got 2, 4, 6, 7, and I'm gonna get an 8th one. I definitely like the square size better than these long skinny ones, I think. I'm gonna throw this in the freezer while the oven continues to preheat. Then we will move on to the next step. I'm gonna roll out the other set of pastry and we're gonna bake these ones, I think, and I will freeze the next round that I make. I've started rolling out the second pie pastry, but our oven is preheated. So I whisked up an egg. We're gonna egg wash each one of these so we get a nice, beautiful crust. These are the eggs from our hens, and you can just see that beautiful, beautiful golden color of the yolk. So once I get them all egg washed, I'm gonna put a couple little vent holes. Try not to break through the bottom of it. I probably didn't need to bake all of them, but I am, because my friend will be here in probably about an hour and a half. I have my lower oven turned on with just the light on because my bread wasn't rising. Never had an issue with this bread rising before. I don't know if it's my yeast or what. So I put it in the lower oven to help with the warmth. I mean, it's pretty warm in here. I don't find like it's cold or anything, but we have that in the lower oven with the light on just to help rise our rolls a little bit faster. These are probably going to take 25-ish minutes. We'll see. After doing the first batch, I definitely felt a little bit more confident going into the second batch. It helped to kind of do them all at the same time and just have an assembly. My plan, or one of the reasons why I wanted to test this out and see how it worked, is Josh's favorite dessert of all time is apple pie. I do not like apple pie, and so I don't make apple pie because he can't go through an entire apple pie if I'm to make an apple pie. So hopefully with the apples that come out of the orchard, I can make some hand apple pies for him. And so this was kind of a test run to see how well these bake up and freeze and all that so that we can try to do some apple hand pies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these, put them in the freezer, flash freeze them like this, and then I'll package them up in bags. I want them completely frozen before I package them up. From what I understand, you should be able to bake these from frozen, just like if you were to buy a frozen pie in a grocery store. But before you bake them, that's when you're going to put the egg wash on. So I wouldn't put the egg wash on now before I freeze them. I would put it on right before I bake them. So into the freezer these go. We did start the freeze dryer yesterday, so let's go check on that and see if that is done and we can package up what we put in the freeze dryer. The freeze dryer is not done, so we're gonna let this continue to go. I'm gonna clean my mess up. I did go ahead and grab out of the outside fridge a cabbage. This is a cabbage we grew and harvested together. And we're gonna make some coleslaw once I get this counter clean. Okay, let's go ahead and make this coleslaw. I've never made a coleslaw like this before. I'm gonna cut this cabbage first, and then we're gonna wash it, because it definitely needs to be washed. I think this is gonna be enough cabbage, especially because I've never made anything like this before. So I don't know if we're gonna like it, but I'm gonna put this as a topping on our sandwiches today. I'm gonna try to get the core out. The recipe I saw for this is to make a really fine coleslaw. So what we're gonna do is actually grate this cabbage on a box grater. I think I'm gonna go wash this cabbage before I grate it actually. Now we have our washed cabbage. I think this is gonna be a little bit better so it doesn't get too soggy if I were to wash these really fine shreds later. There is a fried chicken place in Portland that is so good, and they make their coleslaw like this. I didn't grow up really eating fried chicken or coleslaw or anything, and so it was kind of revolutionary to me, and I really liked the texture of how fine the coleslaw was. And then I was watching a what's for dinner video. I don't remember which video it was, but the person said that the way you get that texture is by using a box grater. So I thought, brilliant. I have a lot of cabbage. Let's attempt it and see if we like it. That cabbage should last a long time in my fridge. A long time, like 3 months or 4 months or so. So if I can get it to last and we like this, then this would be a good use for the cabbage. I want to check on our dough. It's starting to rise there, which is great. And these guys are done. Definitely do not overfill them like I did because they have exploded. I think they'll still taste really good. That is nice and browned on the bottom. So we're going to take these out. We're going to let those cool. I mean, we've got definitely some oozing, but that's okay. Beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. They will taste fantastic. I am super excited about the texture of this cabbage. I think I'm going to really like it. And it's surprising how much I feel like it expanded as I was grating it. That was not a very big head of cabbage. The next thing we're going to do is I just pulled out and washed up a homegrown Walla Walla onion and some carrots. So I'm going to shred this up in the same manner we shredded up our cabbage in. I think these carrots I'm going to chop up just a little bit so they're the same-ish size as the cabbage. And you know, I think those 2 carrots, I washed a bunch more, are going to do the trick. Because I mostly just want that for the color, I think. Perfect. Before we make the dressing for the coleslaw, I'm going to get these pies onto a cooling rack so they stay nice and crispy on the bottom. I definitely like those square ones that I made better than these long skinny ones. But that's just something you learn by doing. So here we have our cabbage, onion, carrots, and the video I watched, it wasn't really a recipe, just I watched her do it, so that's what I'm going to do. I added probably about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, some salt. I'm going to pour just some white vinegar in here just so I don't pour too much and I can kind of get an idea of how much I'm putting in. So let's put 2 tablespoons of vinegar. We'll start with that because I've never made this before. Oh, my friend's here. It is many, many hours later. I took the bread out of the oven when my friend got here because I didn't want it to overproof. And so it's actually perfect, I think, right now to roll it out. I hope it's not overproofed. Normally this is a 1 hour roll recipe, so we'll see if these rolls turn out. I'm sure they're gonna be fine. I did go ahead and throw in the cabbage with everything in it except for the mayo in the fridge when she got here. And now we're gonna go ahead and dress it. I kind of wish I was able to get to it, but it's okay. We had a lot of fun. We actually went to lunch. I went to an estate sale. I did not buy anything. I don't need anything, but I have a hard time driving by an estate sale and not going in. And then we have a local thrift shop that I've been wanting to go into. I went in there, didn't buy anything, but it was fun. And now I'm gonna finish up in the kitchen. Need to check what the meat looks like. I turned it down to 275 degrees. So I turned it way, way down so that hopefully it'll be perfect in time for dinner. So I am gonna mix in some mayonnaise. And there was no measurement for this on the video I watched. It was just put in enough to where it looks right. It looks like the texture of this is amazing. I'm really excited about the texture of this. I don't know why. I think shredding it in with the box grater is gonna make the difference as opposed to buying that coleslaw mix. I did send my friend home with a couple handmade pies too, or the peach pies. Good. That's good. That's gonna be perfect to top our sandwiches, if the buns turn out. So in the oven, or in the refrigerator that goes, along with our ingredients. Now what I'm gonna do is preheat the oven so that we can roll out our rolls. I'm just gonna spray my 9x13. We're gonna get this dough out here. Smells good. 9, 12, so we need to make 12 buns. like to invert the dough on top of itself, like this. And then you take it and you roll it. So you get a nice smooth top, and then it goes right in here. It's making me so incredibly happy and fulfilled to be working with this dough right now. I feel like my life has been crazy and I've been a little bit in survival mode. I can focus on my relationships with my friends. I can focus on making really delicious food, and that just really makes me happy. We're gonna do a second rise on these for about 15 minutes. While the dough is rising, I thought, let's go ahead and take a look at this meat for the first time since we started it. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I wish you could smell this. It smells incredible. Oh, and it's fall apart tender. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It smells so good. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the meat off that, the bones off that. Bring this over here. There's quite a bit of fat on the top that's rendered out of this meat, so I want to get that out of here too. I want to keep the juice, but I'm done with the onions. They have given all that they're going to give. And there's a bone in here, so I'm going to strain out the onions and the garlic and the bay leaves. In our fat separator, which I have melted the handle off, we're gonna pour this yummy broth. While I'm waiting for the meat to cool so I can pick the meat off from any fat or bones and for our broth to separate, I'm gonna go ahead and get going on a baked oatmeal. I was gonna make yogurt parfaits up for breakfast for Josh to use up that granola, but I had this leftover peach pie filling and I didn't think that this would go well with the yogurt because there is the flour to thicken it, and I wasn't sure about the texture, but I think it'll go in a baked oatmeal just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and make up a baked oatmeal, and he hasn't had one of these in probably a month and a half. And this is his favorite breakfast. So I'm gonna make him up one right now. So we're gonna put a little salt in there. I don't need to sweeten this because there is plenty of sweetness in that filling. And then I did save 2 of these bottles. You guys told me that I should put vanilla extract in them, and I think that was a brilliant idea. So I went ahead and did that. Two, 4, 6, 8. I love to use this as a way to use up our eggs because we get so many eggs for just 2 people. I do have written recipes for these, but I just do it by sight now because I've made it so much. This is gonna go in the same oven that we're putting the rolls in. That was another reason I thought this would be a good time to go ahead and get this done, because I already have the oven going. I love making baked oatmeals for Josh because it means I don't have to make up his breakfast for him every morning, which is what typically I have been doing because I haven't had any sort of pre-made breakfast for him. So this is gonna make my mornings a little bit easier. And now let's check on the rolls. Do we have them down here? I put the rolls in here just with the light on so they would rise. They're taking forever to rise. I wonder if maybe I on accident used active dry instead of instant. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and take the meat, and I'm going to take off any fatty bits. Josh and I are not fans of that off, and it's just so tender. And I'm going to put the pieces of meat back in here. I'm going to try to keep them in bigger chunks because I don't want them to fall apart to absolutely nothing. Feels good to get dinner and some breakfast and some other items kind of. Look how tender that is. This is why I like chuck roasts, because they're just so good. You can see here how the fat has separated to the top. So the way that this fat separator works is that there's the hole at the bottom here, so we can pour from here, and we're going to be pouring from the bottom, not from the top. And so I'm going to go ahead and get all this broth in with this meat. I'm gonna put the lid back on this and I'm gonna put this in the oven at a really low temperature just to keep warm for dinner tonight. I'm waiting for those rolls to still rise, so I'm gonna take off the rings from the hot sauce we made yesterday. Oh my goodness, this stuff is amazing. Josh is not a hot sauce fan, and he put this on his enchiladas last night, which warmed my heart. He is not into super spicy like I am. I put hot sauce on literally everything. This stuff is not super hot because it's 50% tomatillos, 50% jalapenos, some onion. So good. Big accomplishment here. This was 100% homemade, or homegrown and homemade. The reason I'm taking the rings off is when you're storing your canned goods, you never want to store your cans with the rings on. It's not the ring that is keeping this lid on. Your suction from the canning process is what's keeping this lid on. You want to know, you want to be able to hold this can by its lid. If this seal is going to break, you want to know it's going to break. You don't want to get a false seal by having this on it, and that's why you always store your rings off, just for safety purposes. And then also you can get rust. Say that there's moisture under the ring from the canning process and it doesn't dry out properly. This could rust and you don't want that. Same with our peaches. We're going to take the rings off. I just got Josh's baked oatmeal out of the oven, and I think I'm going to put just a little bit of butter on the top. I normally put the butter on before I bake it, but I totally forgot about it. And it doesn't really matter. It just adds a little level of richness. So now we need to put an egg wash on our buns before we put them in the oven. You want to know what it looks like on the inside? It's really soft. I try not to over bake it. I just went and sat down on the couch. Oh no. Okay, these are not the best buns I've ever made. Oh, they are beautiful, but they're not as big and fluffy as they normally get. I think it might be my yeast. I don't think I used, or I overproofed them. I don't know. Normally they fill this entire pan up. This is always the size pan I use. I always use the same recipe. So I think it was a yeast problem. They feel soft on the inside. I could smell them when I was sitting on the couch. That's why I was like, oh no, I gotta get to them. So I'm gonna put a little butter. I normally don't do this, but because they're a little bit browner than I normally bake them to, I want them to stay nice and soft. And then what I'll show you what I'm going to do to help bread stay soft. You just take a towel and you put it over the top. Because of this, you know, the heat from the buns will kind of create a little bit of steam, and that'll keep it nice and soft. I'm really excited to dig into one. Since I gave some to my friends, they were eating them after lunch, but I said, I didn't say, but I was thinking I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna wait to have one with Josh tonight. And I'll show you what are they called? Our little sliders. I don't know. Pulled beef sliders, because it's not pork. Tomorrow, I've got a lot of dishes. I did turn my dishwasher on. I don't like to have it running when we're in the kitchen together because it's not that loud. It's actually quieter than my other dishwasher, but I just find it to be kind of annoying. So I have that going, and because I did not have that empty when we started, I have a sink full of dirty dishes. I could probably hand wash half of those, but I don't want to. So I'm not going to. I'll deal with them tomorrow morning. Josh just got home. I can hear the garage door opening. The dogs are going to get excited here in just a second. So I tried to leave the chunks of meat a little bit bigger so they wouldn't just completely shred to nothing. So now I'm just going to break it up. It's nice and warm. I haven't even tried this yet. I should probably try it. We have to see if it's any good. Quality control. You know what would be good on these sliders? A little bit of honey mustard. So we're gonna put a little bit of honey mustard on these sliders. They are nice and soft. They definitely are not as plump as they normally are, but I think they're still gonna taste really good. Oh yeah, they're nice and soft on the inside too. Beautiful. I'm just plating up your dinner here.
Looks
Look
awesome.
over there.
Oh wow, this is peach. Those look amazing.
They're peach pies. We're gonna taste it before dinner.
The sandwich looks really good too.
I've been cooking this literally all day. Top it with some of the slaw. We're gonna finish it off with a pickle. And there we have our dinner. Really, really good. That looks super yummy. Cheers, we're gonna try this. The honey mustard brings it over the top. That meat is so savory. The little bit of vinegar and sweetness from the relish, and it's cold, or relish, slaw. And then that honey mustard, oh my goodness. And the nice roll. I was worried about the roll. The roll's perfect. I need to stop eating that so Josh and I can eat together. That is so good. And remember, that slaw, 100% homegrown, except I didn't grow the mayonnaise, the vinegar, or the sugar or salt. But all the vegetables in there are homegrown. I could have made homemade mayonnaise, but my immersion blender broke. And that is the only way I like to make mayonnaise. That's why I've been buying it. I just need to go buy a new immersion blender. And the beef is from a local rancher, which I absolutely love. Do you want to come taste a pie?
Are you coming in?
Yep.
I kind of would like to not spoil my dinner, but because I'm worried that Oh, those do look good though.
You don't want to spoil your dinner, but you can taste it. Just have a bite. Okay, so it kind of puffed up, and then the filling.
That's good because you can stuff some ham or cheese in there. That's really good.
It's not too sweet.
Nope.
Perfectly cinnamony. The crust, really beautiful crust.
Really nice and flaky.
Very flaky.
Not messy.
Perfect. All right,
Nice work.
we're gonna set that down. That crust is so good, and I don't normally love pie crust, but that one.
It's really good.
In my pie crust, I've been using the grass-fed butter lately, because that's what I've been buying through Azure. I can link the butter down below. It is the best butter, and it makes the crust have a really, really good flavor. So we're gonna set that down. We're gonna eat dinner. Thank you for hanging out with us. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Can't wait to see you next time. We'll be back in the kitchen tomorrow doing a bunch of preservation projects. Today was more like cooking and having fun, and I guess we froze some of those pies for later. At some point when I cook those, I'll show you how those cook up from frozen, and it was a great day. Bye, friends.